I have been trying to make this video for hours, but my problem is that I just kept coming down this kind of like rabbit hole, just finding all this other stuff, finding out all this shit, and it got to a point where it's like, okay, I just have to hit record and just like go with what I've got. I will say, I haven't finished page 7 and 8 of the docket for the lawsuit. I finished page 6 last night. I think there's still one actually that I have to go through, but it's so complicated, and I thought like, hey, maybe I can like condense it, maybe I can do something here. I think I was a little bit not prepared for what was to come out. And so today we're going to be talking about Blake Lively versus Justin Baldoni, and we're also going to be talking a bit about like all the other like PR people. We'll see what we can get to in like an hour, because I don't want to go over an hour today, but it is a lot. So yeah, and it's going to be not as edited because I just don't have the time to do it now, but it's fine. If you're here, you want some background noise. Oh, maybe you're trying to get away from some of the Epstein stuff that's like all over all social medias. Sorry to say, but Epstein is somehow involved here in some way, allegedly. High on the alleged. High, allegedly. It's gonna be one of those things where what I'm gonna be saying is delving into maybe more conspiratorial. And I kind of hate that because I'm not like a conspiracy type of person, but after everything that's been happening with the Epstein stuff, I've kind of come to the conclusion that like, it feels like as bad as the connotation is around saying conspiracy theorist, conspiracy theories, it unfortunately seems like some of them were having some truth to them. Maybe people aren't as crazy as they thought they were. It definitely feels like there's this mass gaslighting campaign happening, and I think you're going to see some of that in what I've got to say today. Now, to be certain, I did cover the Baldoni stuff ages ago, back when the first like complaints came out. I read both of them. I haven't actually watched that video back. I don't think I really need to be honest. But I do want to have a somewhat of a broader view of all this stuff. Like, I want to look at Baldoni's side, I want to look at Blake Lively's side and stuff like that, but bear with me because I don't have everything down at the moment. I only have what I have. And there seems to be some inconsistencies. I think the main thing that interested me again in this is the depositions that came out. Unfortunately, there is still a lot of stuff that is sealed. I kind of think that in some of the filings I read, it kind of seemed like there were a couple things that were meant to be redacted that I don't know if they were. So I will be cautiously not showing some things, just out of abundance of caution, because I think there's like one place where like an email is not redacted for HR. So obviously I'm not going to be showing that, just in case, or I'll be blocking it if I catch it. And then there's the birthing video, which we're going to get started with. Yeah. So, the birthing video, there is a piece of, is it evidence or something? There is a screen grab of the video in question that you can look at in one of the filings. I believe it is on page 6 from memory. I'm not sure if that was meant to be redacted or not, because for the most part, we see that the Judge Lehman ruled in favor of Lively, ordering Heath to produce all the film material of the birth video in full, because it could be necessary evidence for Lively and her team, because initially Heath actually just attempted to produce the post-birthing clip, so that kind of limited the birthing footage, but that was what he alleged he showed Blake, and she's alleging that like, hey, actually, that's not what you showed me. Okay, cool. So the court kind of deemed that insufficient and ordered everything in full. Heath has to provide everything. So I guess we could expect that to happen. I think that was like in the past. I think that's happened by now, judging by the extra filings, but yeah. So the judge actually acknowledged that the documents needing to be seized were sensitive in nature, so at least that stuff is sealed for the most part. The thing that I found so interesting about this is that Heath had said to Blake Lively that showing the video of his wife's birth, he said that like she wasn't weirded out about that kind of stuff, and I think that insinuation is like, oh well, you know, you imagine you're showing the video and you're like, my wife's not weird about this stuff. I think it could be interpreted as kind of like insulting. I think that, yeah, I think it's definitely kind of insulting to think that maybe a woman would want her birthing to be a private thing, and to call people like that or insinuate that people like that are weird about birth. I find that to be a little bit, is it patronizing? It's definitely like insensitive. I think it's weird. As a woman, I think that's weird. I think whatever a woman wants in relation to her giving birth is her choice and shouldn't be deemed as weird. So if that's something that happened, that's something that he said, already getting off to a great start with Mr. Heath. I gotta say, I do not get a good vibe from this man. I do not like him too much, but for the most part, he seems like a, you know, like a family man. He seems to like really, I don't know, I think he's got a bunch of kids. He's got a wife. I'm not gonna comment on like him being like a dad or like having a family or whatever. I think he's probably fine in all that regards, but when it comes to like the socializing with other people aspect, it's kind of a weird thing to do, I think. So I guess for his wife, I'm like, when did he get consent from his wife is something that I kind of think about. It's like, did they talk about it beforehand? Was there like a mutual understanding that he would be showing her birthing video to people on set? Not really sure, but I'm glad that they sealed the evidence anyway. It's interesting. The birthing video is like a sensitive thing in nature, but then it's like, well, if she's not weird about this stuff, then I guess there's a difference between having it be in a public filing versus showing people in person. So, you know what? All the more to Tasha, or Natasha, or whatever her name is. I think it's Natasha. So the birthing video, according to some lawyer I watched on YouTube, the lawyer you know, I think that's his name, the birthing video is going to be a huge part of the case, apparently. As Lively said, it was a video that was she was shown, according to her, without her consent. This is contested quite a lot, and I still have no idea who's like kind of telling the truth about this one. It seems a little bit blurred, but we'll get into it. She believed it to be pornography from her initial impression, and asked Heath if he knew that the wife knew that she was being shown this video. Okay, so a little bit of repeating myself there. I will say, Lively, she has given birth herself, like, she has like 4 kids. She's given birth multiple times. I'm pretty sure she was there for all those births. I mean, sometimes emergency, if you have like an emergency C-section, for instance, like, I think you have to be put under, which is very unfortunate. If she allegedly had C-section births, which some people have speculated, I don't know if it's true, I don't know if she publicly talks about that. I don't personally know that to be true, but if it was what she had, I think she's still going to be very aware of like the birthing process, just because she's a woman who was pregnant and had kids. So I don't really know much about that, but I still kind of find it interesting that why Heath as a man felt it necessary to show his wife giving birth. I just don't, like, even in the context of like, oh, we're filming like a birthing scene in a movie, maybe it would make sense if the woman's never given birth before, but when it comes to like Blake Lively, it just seems to me like this very like weird thing. I mean, has she experienced every single birthing scenario possible? No, but it seems to me like in the movie, the birthing scene wasn't really, I watched the movie, I remember it being very, would you say like unimportant? I don't know, it was like, okay, she's pregnant, she has the baby, like I think everyone kind of understands where, like, past the age of, like, I don't know, 12 or something, everyone kind of knows where babies come from. I understand how babies come out, what happens, like, I know that, I know that. I was born once, I know that, I'm an expert. No, but, like, seriously, like, do we need to see that? No, sometimes I get kind of annoyed when I'm watching, like, a TV show, it's like a drama, and they introduce, like, a pregnant woman, like a heavily pregnant woman, and you just know that her giving birth is gonna be a point of, like, dramatization in the show or the movie, where it's gonna be like, they're coming, the aliens are coming, and she's like, whoo, and she's trying to give birth in like this. I personally fucking hate that shit. I don't know why I hate it. It just seems like such a cheap way to kind of create drama and stuff, and it's like, realistically, I think if a woman was in the midst of labor and she was worried about, I don't know, some kind of danger happening, the body is built in a way where it actually, like, stops the birthing process and is like, you need to get out of here so you can find a safe place to give birth. Like, it's a very man way of thinking of birth, in my opinion. This is such, like, a rant. Anyway, so I have opinions about giving birth, apparently. So there is a lot of contention or contest around, like, why this video was shown, was there consent, yada yada yada, because it is going to be very important, because showing a video of a woman giving birth, I mean, I would say, like, it's sensitive material, as the judge said. If there was no consent given, and Blake Lively felt as though that was something she just didn't want to see, she would have said no at the time. I do think that's important, and that's probably why it's contested so heavily. So apparently, it was lunchtime, someone brought up the birthing scene and it ends with us, or they were about to film, or they were filming the birthing scene, but in recent filings, I've seen a text from Heath himself saying that the birthing video was shown when they were doing the karaoke shoot for the movie. I think the first one, I think they did couple shoots. He said the first karaoke shoot, I believe. So again, it's confusing when and why this video was shown to Lively without her express consent, allegedly. We don't really know the facts of that just yet, I don't think. Whether she consented or not, contested heavily. I think in the Angie Giannetti deposition, the Sony representative, she concurs that she was informed at the time that Blake didn't ask for it, and she said herself that Heath was stupid for showing it to her like that, so she was kind of like, he's an idiot. He should not have done that. And then Miss Giannetti didn't think the video was necessarily warranting any further action, formally speaking. So it is important to note that Miss Giannetti only knew of around 3 incidents that occurred and involved the alleged sexual harassment, or alleged sexual harassment. I think it is safe to say that she wasn't aware of other things that had occurred, so maybe she had a good faith reason to believe Sony HR didn't need to be involved, but if she knew of more things, perhaps things would be different. It is also important, like, I want to say this because it's on my mind. Blake Lively at one point, when she did, like, the 17-point list that she sent to Bell, you know, sent to the whole team, being like, no more of this, no more of that. It is important to remember that her lawyers drafted that and said that Miss Lively is willing to forego a formal HR process in favor of returning to film as long as this set list, or this set list of requests are agreed upon. And now the lawyer you know pointed out that this 17-point list is actually really crucial as well in the filing. Baldoni and his team have said a lot that they do not agree with the list, but they agreed to it for the sake of, like, they was basically saying, like, yeah, anyone would agree to this, but we don't agree that this conduct was done, but we agree that that shouldn't be happening. But we don't agree that it happened in the first place. So that's kind of how that happened. But the lawyer you know said, well, it's in writing that you agreed to this stuff, and the way that it's written is that no more of, you know, talking about your porn addiction, no more of talking about genitalia, I think, or something like that. The way that it's written and the fact that it's signed by the people in question is pretty significant, according to the lawyer, you know? So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. So yeah, Lively was willing to forego the HR formal process because I believe it would have something to do with detriment to the filming of the production or the production continuing. I don't know if, like, when an HR complaint comes in that on a movie set that they have to, like, shut everything down and do, like, a whole, you know, bureaucratic system of trying to figure out what's happened, what's been done. I have no idea about that, but the way that it was worded sounded like that's what was going to happen, and in my mind, the Sony representative not wanting to do, like, a formal HR process with Sony, to me, indicates that maybe she also might have been trying to protect the, you know, protect the film and the film coming out, being on schedule, because, you know, we gotta remember, there was also a strike that happened that really interrupted a lot of the progress of the film, so it seems like it was a complicated situation, and I think perhaps, you know, representatives or whatever, they were just like, listen, this stuff's not good, but it's not like anyone, you know, got raped or something, right? Like, that's kind of like the vibe that I got. It's like, yeah, this stuff isn't great, but can we all just be adults and maybe, like, move on, perhaps? And I think after the 17-point list was agreed upon, I think things were changing after that. I don't really remember that part, but yeah, so then during Heath's deposition, he admitted that his wife was not clothed, but it was a towel, however, more so for the baby to dry it off, because, you know, it's a water birth, it's done at home, it's gonna be messy. Heath also said that the only thing Lively could have seen from the second of her viewing, he alleges that she watched it for like a second before being like, get that away from me. His wife was sitting with the baby on top of her, and like I said, I've seen recent filings, a screenshot of this scene depicted. Again, I'm not sure if they failed to redact this, so out of caution, not showing it. But I can describe what I've seen, and it kind of depicts Mr. Heath himself, shirtless, sitting behind his wife in the tub with her. At least to me, it looks like he's shirtless. I mean, I can't imagine him being very comfortable sitting in a bathtub with your clothes on. I wouldn't like that. So he's sitting behind his wife in the tub with her. The wife sits with her legs resting up on the tub a little bit, but she's holding the baby. And as for signs of genitalia or whatever, I can't see anything, so there's nothing there, but the lighting, however, is very dim. Half the photo is obscured by shadow, and while there is a warm orange lighting that kind of comes from, like, behind where they are, like from a bit further away, it provides some warm orange lighting. So the poor lighting, while ideal for giving birth in a calming setting, which is actually really important, it's also not beating the porn allegations in my view. That's what they say about, like, porn and stuff, is like the difference between porn and art is that porn's lighting is, like, very poor. The lighting in porn is poor. That's a tongue twister. So I can understand that seeing it myself unexpectedly while reading through the filings, my first thought was like, whoa, what is that? Then I read it, and then I read, like, Tasha, and then I looked up her name. I looked up who Mr. Heath's wife was, and then her name's Natasha, so that's how I kind of connected the dots for myself. But that was after I looked it up, and I was like, okay, it's the birthing video, okay. Then it's like, okay, that actually does seem like a nice, wholesome setting, and I can understand that. Like, I don't think the intention here was to ever, like, pornify, like, birthing. I think it's just that from seeing an image for a split second and not having all the context, maybe there's just a misunderstanding there, you know? I think that, yeah, I think there's just a misunderstanding perhaps. But that kind of leans into, like, well, Mr. Heath is really a dumbass. If this is how it played out, if, as he alleges, Justin told him, go show her the video. So Heath is like, oh, she wants to see the video. Justin's telling me to show her the video. And so he goes up and he's like, hey, look at this. And it's just, you know, like maybe she wasn't in the middle of giving birth. Maybe she was still in the tub with him. But from the, just from the get-go, seeing it for a split second, not having all the context, it could be taken out of context, but I don't think that's necessarily I don't think that's necessarily Blake's fault. If that's how it played out. I don't know how it played out, but that's the image that I'm getting at the moment. But I'm not sure, because then there was other filings that said that apparently Blake, he was talking about it, and then Blake was like, yeah, I'd like to see that, cool. Who knows how she said it? Was she just being nice? I don't know. You know, maybe her saying I like to see that, maybe she just didn't want to see it right then and there. Does that matter? I'm not really sure. You know, maybe it was Heath's mistake of just assuming that, oh, she's gonna want to see this, or she's gonna know that, like, this isn't weird. Like, this isn't, like, an odd thing. Like, I can see, like, for him, he views it very differently. It's very personal to him. It's his, like, life thing. He knows all about it. Maybe it's hard to take yourself out of that and think of it how someone else looking at it might think. I also think this, like, in my opinion, this is gonna sound terrible maybe, but I feel like for the most part, a lot of people just don't care. Like, you could be talking, like, going like, oh my god, my wife had the best birth, it was beautiful, we were all singing and we were all praying and stuff, and then, like, most people listening to that are probably like, oh, that's nice. But I don't think a lot of people really care. It's nice that you had that experience, but at the same time, it's like, okay. I don't know how relevant that is, but I just thought, like, maybe she was just being like, okay, cool. That's cool. I don't know. So, yeah, like I was saying, the birthing scene in the hospital, I don't really see any relevance. Like, one is a birthing scene at home in the tub, and then one is, like, in the hospital with the stirrups, and it's like, stirrups? I don't know. Whatever they're called. The fucking things you put your feet in. So, I don't know. I don't know how much that really all fucking matters. But it matters a great deal, apparently. If Lively was being nice and just being like, yeah, I'd like to see that sometime, hopefully never shows me, you don't know who's gonna show you. Let's just be real. Don't be nice. Just be like, oh, that's cool, nice. Yeah, I don't want to see it, but that's cool. I like that you had that. Good for you. Don't be here's the thing. Don't be nice about things. Don't say things you don't mean. That's the takeaway here, I think, if that's how it went. So in this text message, Jamie Heath says, when we shot the first karaoke scene, brackets, it's when I showed her the video of Tasha. Okay, because they were setting up this is when they were talking about wanting to set up a website about, like, the timeline of how everything did play out. So in this thing that he's sending to his, I guess, PR people, he is saying that he showed the video of Tasha when we shot the first karaoke scene. So that's interesting. Did he I guess we can surmise, because this is, you know, private text messages with PR. He's saying it happened during the first karaoke scene. I've seen it written other places that it was relevant to shooting the birthing scene. My impression that they were doing the shoot for the birthing scene, or they were prepping for it, and he showed the video to Lively, and then Lively, like, and her I think she had an assistant with her or something. She had someone with her, and, you know, the whole thing played out, and then she walked away, and then I think either the Sony representative or Alex Sachs from, I think Sachs is like a production company or something. It's like a big company that was kind of working with Sony, I think. I don't really remember Alex Sachs, and, like, but she's kind of like a big wig with this whole production. And so she walked past either Sony or Sachs and apparently told them, like, he showed me this thing and blah blah blah, and she was kind of like walking away. She was like walking away in a huff, angry. That's one of the depositions said. And then this person went and talked to Jamie, was like, did you show her like this thing? And then Jamie was like, yeah, look, it's just this. That's the picture in my head from all the stuff that I've read of what's happened. So you can see why this was a confusing video. This is a confusing video. It's hard to make this, but I'm trying. So it's gonna be all over the place. Bear with me. I don't know if I'm gonna be covering this for a lot longer, because it's already been 25 minutes and I still have like 12 chapters to go through, so this is I'm probably gonna be covering this for a minute, I think. Okay, so in terms of settlement, Brian Friedman, Baldoni's lawyer, went on Megyn Kelly. I don't know who Megyn Kelly is. She kind of gives me MAGA vibes, not gonna lie, but I don't know anything about her. She seems very well spoken though, I will say. I think I've heard her name in like my peripheral and stuff, but I don't know anything about her. I think actually Friedman represented her at one point or something. Don't know what it was, so I'm just putting that out there. So she asks if there's any chance of settlement between Justin and Lively, and he's like, yeah, Justin would have liked millions of dollars to compensate him for his damages of defamation, but the defamation case against Lively was thrown out, and I would like to inform the court here today that the $400 million lawsuit against Blake Lively that Baldoni like put out, it was like thrown out, it was like dismissed, but now it's been thrown out like, because they never refiled. And Mr. Friedman talked very heavily about like, we're gonna sue them into oblivion, they're gonna be totally fucked, we're gonna like, I'm being silly, but his strategy to me is very much like, we just go in, we play it really confidently, because I would think it's like you're trying to rally the fans that you do have, and you want to come out with like this very big showcase of being like fierce, like so much confidence, to the point where when I was reading this, it's on the Court Listener, and they did it's not stenography, it's like they did a whole transcript of this interview, and I only read the interview, I didn't watch it. So reading through the transcript, it just seemed to me that this Brian guy felt like overcompensation a little bit. It really did. Like he was going so hard on like these certain points about just being really confident, and now that the lawsuit against Blake Lively hasn't been refiled, you know, it makes you wonder, well, he said they were definitely refiling, allegedly, and then apparently not. So I'm just a little bit confused about that. I don't really know what's going on there. I don't know if they're planning on doing any litigation further down the line. I'm not really sure about that, but seems like for now it's only the Blake Lively lawsuit. And even lawyers, I think, I don't know if we covered this already, but even like Emily D. Baker, when she covered the lawsuit that Baldoni did against Blake Lively, she was kind of saying that it felt like that lawsuit was more just rebuttals against her lawsuit and not actually talking about the claims that they were making in the Baldoni lawsuit. Does that make sense? So it was more like I think you could interpret it as like a PR move. It's like a PR lawsuit. It's like, you know, it's not going to go anywhere, but you're going to file it just so you can say like, we sued her, and, you know, oh damn, we just need to refile it. And then you just don't refile it and just don't talk about it, I guess. I don't know, like, is that really a strategy? I guess so. It seemed to have worked. A lot of people, dude, when that $400 million little signifier came out, people were going crazy with it. And I just have to say that I think, like, all the lawyer people who talked about it were like, the number doesn't matter at the end of the day. It's like this egregious number, like 400 million. It is like this egregious number, which I'm sure Baldoni has probably, I think both sides have probably suffered quite a bit throughout all this stuff. So, I mean, people kind of look at the 400 million and go like, yeah, get him. But at the end of the day, that 400 million is just like what they're sort of starting point is, and it's not really going to be like, it's going to be 400 million, you know what I mean? So, yeah. So Friedman goes on to explain that Baldoni's mission has always primarily been to prove no sexual harassment took place and that defamation was always secondary. So then Megyn Kelly, interestingly, says that Blake Lively has already been viewed as Amber Heard by at least half or more of the country. And then she continues and says Lively is also like Meghan Markle, uniting the right and the left. That's left. Uniting the right and the left political people with their mutual hatred of her. Which is just like, I've got to say, guys, to lump Amber Heard in with Meghan Markle is just like, I honestly don't know why Meghan Markle is hated so much. I really don't get it. I think it's pretty bizarre to me. I feel like the Meghan Markle hate is like so forced, and I don't know why. Although it was funny when South Park did like the worldwide privacy tour. That was pretty funny. Like, I think Meghan Markle and I was about to say Harry Styles, Prince Harry, Meghan Markle and Prince Harry. That is a funny combo. Like that they had a very funny combination of doing things. So I think for like the entertainment purposes, it's funny to goof on them. But at the end of the day, it's like, what is there to really hate about them? I don't really know. Maybe people are unhappy. I guess there's like rifts with the family and people think it's Meghan's fault or something. It's like, okay, well, I mean, who really knows and who really cares? It's the royal family. Who gives a fuck? So Meghan says she's pretty convinced that most people hate Blake Lively at this point, so why not just let the litigation go away? Which I don't know what she means. Oh, I guess she means in the terms of like settling. It's like, why not just settle and let it go away? But then I think in a way, they say that settling is like not a proof of wrongdoing. But I mean, you gotta admit, sometimes when you see like settlements happen and stuff, it's like kind of sussy. It's kind of sussy, isn't it? Ay. But I don't know. I mean, sometimes it's like, I just want this to go away, I'll just pay you off, but that can kind of have like a bad, can kind of set a bad precedent for some people though, right? Because some people believe that, you know, if someone just starts making allegations and you pay them off, then it turns into this thing where like, well, anyone could just say allegations and you'll just pay it off to go away. So I think when you settle stuff like that, it has to be very like calculated, right? Because you don't want people to think that you just like, because then people will just start making up shit, right? So then it's like, well, if you're settling, like that has to be a pretty heavy decision that you come to, that you've kind of thought of all the things, right? So I never really thought there was going to be settlement with this. I mean, people keep saying like, oh, this is never going to get to court, bro. This is going to be settled in no time. Blake Lively's going to fucking admit that she made everything up. And it's like, no, I never really thought it that way. I mean, most of this doesn't really make a lot of sense in some ways. I think in the way that like people kept saying that she's a liar, and it's like, well, okay, most of this stuff is going to be able to be corroborated because you're on a set with a crew, you're filming, if things happen during filming, which there are some clips out there now of all the evidence of like some things. My god, this scene never ends. Okay, so Meghan seemed pretty convinced that people don't like Blake Lively. Of course not. There was definitely a minute there where I couldn't even escape the videos, the Blake Lively hate videos. It was like what's happening with Epstein right now. It's like every second video you watch, or articles after articles, it's like you're just barraged with all this stuff. Because people want to talk about what's like the hot topic, right? So Meghan is talking about let the litigation go away, settle maybe, and then like Blake Lively's done for, right? Friedman doesn't necessarily agree with the point, in my opinion, because I think he's trying to paint a picture where Baldoni has had his whole life ruined, and that the only people in his corner are his family and his legal team and like some of his close friends and colleagues, I guess. I don't know. And in my opinion, I still don't think that's really quite true. And most people are, or even were. Maybe the story's shifting as more stuff is coming out, but most people were on Baldoni's side because, as Megyn Kelly said, Lively is like the new Amber Heard. She's a new female villain that she had some bad social faux pas with a few interviews, and oh yeah, and she kept calling people trannies, and she had her wedding at a plantation. Like, sure, she doesn't seem like the best of people. I don't think anyone's saying that she's like necessarily a good person, or I don't know. It's hard to know, I guess, with some stuff. Especially when you're doing like the junket interviews. I feel like so many celebrities have come out and said that they fucking hate doing the interviews, like the marketing and the promo for movies. And I think I'd like to see them steer away from like the traditional media of doing that, because I don't understand this. Some people, they will go and they'll find interviews or promo for the movie, and I've never really enjoyed that or even wanted to like watch that kind of stuff. I never really understood it because it all just feels so, I want to say like fake, but it always feels so just, is it like pandery? I don't know. I like the new form of trying to promo stuff where you go on people's shows like on YouTube and stuff, and you just talk to people and you just, you know, you just hang out and you just have a good time and be like, hey, by the way, I've got this thing. Like, I think I don't really like Brittany Broski anymore, but I will say that I think her show has a good format. You know, if you do Hot Ones, I'm sure, I bet there's so many people who are like, I get to go and eat like hot chicken wings and like, you know, have all these hot sauces, and I just get to, you know, answer some questions, and it's like, that sounds like a much funner way of doing an interview than going and sitting on this high chair. You got like the poster of the movie behind you, and the interviewer's like, so what was like the best part about filming? And then you have to be like, wow, okay, the best part about filming, geez. And then you go to the next one, and then the interviewer's like, oh my god, what did you think about the food on set? Wasn't it great? It's like, oh, and what did you think about filming? How fun was filming? And it's like, you have to deal with those questions for like 20 hours, 20 hours a day. Like, the whole marketing thing, I know it sounds like I'm like defending Lively. Bitch, I'm not. I really don't think, like, the way that she was in those interviews, not good. And I think Hollywood needs to change the way that they do this promo and marketing stuff, because so many actors are like, I fucking hate this. I like, so many of them are like drinking alcohol to get through though. I've heard about that. I don't know if you've heard about that. But it's like that's like kind of fucked up. Or maybe they're just saying that they just want to drink. They could just be alcoholics. I didn't think about that. Ugh. Alright, so then we have lunch with Jenny Slate. So the Jenny Slate stuff was very interesting. And this is, what is this? This is the deposition of Alex Sachs. So Alex Sachs is one of the big wigs. I don't remember her thing, so forgive me for not knowing that. But she's a big wig. Do you understand what that means? Like, does that make sense to you? I hope it does. If it doesn't, then I'm so sorry, but she's a big deal, and I've got Alex Sachs. Oh, there it is. Alex Sachs. Okay. I've already highlighted some stuff, so I've got things. I'm prepared. I'm like somewhat prepared. So, they say, do you remember having brunch with Jenny Slate, May 29th, 2023? And they said that they had a meal prior to this one. So they went into this thinking it was just a friendly brunch, which it was to a degree, but during it, she brought up some concerns that she was having on the movie, which was the first time I was hearing about them. So that was May 29th, 2023. And so Alex says, I believe the week prior, Justin had commented on her physical appearance, which made her uncomfortable. That in an initial creative Zoom meeting between Justin, Blake, and Jenny, Jenny and Blake only found out at the end of the Zoom that Justin had been recording it the entire time. That's kind of fucked up. Was there that it seems like there was no mutual understanding that that was to be recorded. Bit concerning, I would say. And I don't see anyone talking about this at all, which again is like, do we not care about like recording people without their permission? I don't know. Kind of weird. I think perhaps he was recording it because I think there was a desire to make like a behind the scenes filming video for like Netflix. I think I read that somewhere. They wanted to do a behind the scenes filming, you know, the making of It Ends With Us. And so that's probably why he was doing that, in my view. Don't know. So there was a mention of some kind of comments that Jamie had made to Jenny regarding how generous they had been with her housing allowance, and that it was important for them to take care of new mothers, and that made her uncomfortable. Right. You know, you're entering a workplace. I assume they gave housing allowance to people who were coming from out of state. Okay. And they specifically said, Heath specifically said, hey, Jenny, you know, we've been real generous with you about that housing allowance, and it's because it's really important to us that we take care of new mothers. It's a bit weird. It's a bit weird. Did it need to be said out loud? A bit weird. It's one of those things where it's like special considerations, special treatment, especially about being a new mother. It's a bit interesting. Now, some people might think that it's not bad to say that. Some people might just feel uncomfortable having that be such like attached to that, you know? So I don't know if they really talk much else about that again. But Alex Sachs says that Jenny was uncomfortable in both of their presences, Baldoni and Heath, and would prefer to never see Jamie again. I think she must have been really offended about this stuff and maybe some other stuff that happened, because Alex says there was a lot of other conversation, non-specific, but she wasn't uncomfortable. And to never want to see Jamie again is... okay. That's a pretty strong feeling, but she knew that Justin was the director and co-star, so she'd just have to suck it up and keep seeing him, I guess. That's kind of what the assumption is, but I don't think Alex Sachs was ever told specifically that. So then, Miss Slate raised during brunch. Mr. Baldoni commented on her physical appearance, which made her uncomfortable. And during that time, there was no scene being filmed. He called her hot or sexy. I don't recall if it was once or twice. The first time would have been in the flower shop when she was wearing an all-leather jumpsuit. And the second would have been in the karaoke scene. Now, I don't think it was in the karaoke scene where Blake was shown the birthing video. I think they filmed multiple times, because I think the first time they did the karaoke scene, they could only fit in Baldoni and Blake's schedule. So I think the karaoke scene was filmed in different segments. So, ugh. And then we had a question. Did Miss Slate suggest to you that she had encouraged Blake to reach out to you about her own concerns with Mr. Baldoni and Mr. Heath? To which Alex says, I believe she did. And then asking, what do you recall about Mr. Heath's comments regarding Miss Slate's housing situation? And it was something to the effect of, we gave you more than maybe we normally would have because we prioritized women with families and children, because we're good like that, and that made her uncomfortable. Yeah, so it's like that kind of thing of like, listen, we're nice, we're good people, we really like cherish specifically women and children and family. I guess it could make people uncomfortable hearing about that. So it did make her uncomfortable, correct. Were you concerned that Mr. Baldoni had recorded a conversation with Blake and Jenny without their consent? Yeah, I didn't love hearing that. And if you're recording someone without their knowledge, it sets you off on the wrong foot. And then there's some argument about some states it's illegal one-party consent, two-party consent. If you record it without consent in a two-party consent state, then it's illegal or something. I don't know if that's what happened here. Not really. It's not really talked about. So at 11:23 a.m., Alex sends Miss Giannetti a text saying, "Yes, very bad. I think we need to replace our director and Jamie should not be on set." Not be on set at all. There was a lot of hugging and touching amidst the Wayfarer team, and that was a part of Miss Lively talking about how she felt like it wasn't professional. And then it sounded like at some point she was referring to how sometimes the guys would make jokes about how they couldn't do that. But not really that. The joke would be, can't even make eye contact with people anymore. Which I feel like is something I hear a lot, is that people are like, oh, you know, people have gotten so woke, you can't even make eye contact without someone screaming rape or something. I mean, I'm being kind of silly. I'm not really silly, but like, I'm kind of making it out to be a little bit crazier. Like, I'm sure they didn't say that, but there is that weird thing where it's like joking about like, oh, people are so sensitive today, or people are so, they don't want to be touched, they don't want to hug anyone. It's like, well, it's a workplace, you know, be professional. If you know someone really well and you have that kind of basis, great. But if not, then don't push it. That's what I would say. So apparently Mr. Heath and Baldoni, they ask Alex Sachs, in your view, the comment that Miss Lively raised about Mr. Heath and Mr. Baldoni joking that you can't make eye contact with people anymore, did you view that to undermine and lessen the importance of people wanting to be comfortable in the workplace? Yes. I think comfort in the workplace can look a little bit different for everyone, but I think there is like a professional standard of what you can expect. But I don't really know, like, it's one of those things where you hear a little bit of something, but without more, it's kind of like, we don't really know. So I think, oh, we got a bit more. Right, so with Book Bonanza, when they went to Book Bonanza to promote the film, apparently nobody said Baldoni's name the entire time, unless it, like, someone mentioned it. And people kind of noticed that, I think. So Miss Lively specifically had discussed with Miss Hoover, Colleen Hoover, the author of the book It Ends With Us, how she had been treated by Baldoni and Heath on the film, and mentioned her discomfort with the treatment. So at this point in time, Colleen's probably like, whoa, that's like, I didn't know that was happening. I didn't know that JB was doing that. So no one was saying anything about him at Book Bonanza. They were avoiding it. Yeah, apparently. So June 15th, 2024. She's texting with Miss Giannetti, and she asks you, did you get any details back then? And Alex says, Justin was very dismissive of her, Blake I'm assuming, when she wanted to direct, and then used Jamie to try and manipulate her when he realized that she could co-direct it after she got Daddy-O going. I wish they would have asked, who the fuck is Daddy-O? Is Daddy-O Sony? Is it a thing where like, oh yeah, she actually can co-direct because she's told Sony about what's happening and Sony's like, hey, you gotta let her co-direct, Justin. Right. Alright, and well, you talked about conduct that you did not deem appropriate. Did that conduct all occur during filming? What we've been calling the first phase of filming, before the break, before the strikes? Yes. So all the bad conduct happened before the strike occurred, apparently. That's what we're getting up there. A little bit of timeline action for you. And saying that Miss Lively had a number of complaints almost from day one. Yes. And then complaints about the wardrobe. Alex is like, yeah, she just wanted to be in control of her look. Wasn't really criticizing the wardrobe team specifically, because I think even the wardrobe team, maybe it was just one person doing it, she'd actually worked with him on Gossip Girl, so allegedly that's something I remember. And apparently he said praises about her, so I don't know what's going on with the wardrobe. I don't know how. I guess it's another point of like, she's stealing it, she's stealing the show, so that's kind of why they bring up the wardrobe, I reckon. Do you believe that as a producer, that relieved you of any obligation to ensure that conduct on the set was appropriate? Yes. So basically saying that Alex didn't believe she had an obligation to conduct or ensure that the set was like safe, or that people were being appropriate, I guess is the right way of saying it. So I think that's why Alex specifically didn't do much about it. She gave her recommendations to Miss Giannetti, the Sony rep, but as we know now, Miss Giannetti didn't really see a need for it. She didn't see a need for a formal HR complaint. So in the second phase, they ask if there's any required intimacy coordinators, and they say yes. Then saying that, oh, Alex, when you accepted the job as a producer on the movie, you knew it had graphic sexual content. Is that correct? And she talked about how she read it and explained that we were depicting domestic violence, abuse, but the intention was always for it to be beautiful. So they always wanted there to be like an artistic kind of representation of all that. And that's kind of everything with that we know so far, I think, with the Alex Sachs deposition. People kept saying that it was like, I don't know, like a hard-hitting thing where, oh, she said this stuff, she's totally fucked up Blake Lively's thing, but I think it adds some needed context for stuff, but yeah. Alright, so we have Melissa Nathan. Now this is where things get kind of crazy. Melissa Nathan was, I just have to say this up front, she was apparently in the Epstein Files. Now I will say right up front, her lawyer Brian Friedman has made a statement to Daily Dose of Dana. Daily Dose of Dana. Exclusive statement from Brian Friedman. To be absolutely clear, neither Melissa Nathan nor anyone at TAG has ever met, engaged with, or provided public relations or any type of services for Jeffrey Epstein. Miss Nathan's name was added to the email without her knowledge or approval. She learned of it only when it became public, along with everyone else. Regardless of whether a former firm used her name without her consent, Miss Nathan has never been copied on any email with Jeffrey Epstein, has never communicated in any way with him or any of his associates, and has never attended, nor would she ever agree to attend, a meeting involving him. Any suggestion to the contrary is categorically false, defamatory, and harmful. TAG, a small team of women and private individuals, have been subjected to an onslaught of conspiracies and damaging rhetoric based on fragments of untrue context and hearsay. Enough is enough. And to that I want to say that any suggestion of the contrary is defamatory. I mean, I kind of feel like Brian Freeman's trying to scare people from talking about this in a way. So I'm not going to say it. I'm going to say up front, I don't know anything personally. I don't know Melissa Nathan personally. All things are alleged. All things are conspiracy, I guess you could say. All things said here today are speculative. It is questioning what has happened and bringing forward to you what I have found and what I think and my opinion ultimately. This is ultimately my personal opinion, and I would encourage people to do their own research, their own due diligence, and to think of things yourself, ultimately. Ultimately, come to your own conclusion. However, I find it interesting that in 2016, some deemed this interesting, right? Jeffrey Epstein was chatting it up with, I believe, Woody Allen. And talking to some guy called Tom Barrack? And Jeffrey is saying, "Great, download the Signal app if you have not already. When are you in New York tonight? Dinner with Woody? Question mark. Download the Signal app." Now, if you weren't aware, the Signal app it's an app where it kind of automatically deletes messages, and you can do various settings on it to, I guess, change it. Change when it deletes messages after a week, maybe it could be a few days. It's the kind of app that you would want to use if you had privacy in mind. Privacy at the forefront of your mind. So this is EFTA 012-10517. This is in 2016. So that's kind of interesting. So we have the download Signal thing. Then we have the supposed email that Melissa Nathan was in. So we had some sort of email that was between Jeffrey, his assistants, and the Hiltzik group. And so they had been organizing a meeting with Matthew Hiltzik, and Hiltzik is like a crisis management PR company. Wow, wouldn't you know? And this was back in 2017, so around a year later. We have someone called Alicia McGinnis saying, "Hi Leslie, Melissa Nathan will be joining Ben and Matthew to the meeting tomorrow at 4:30 p.m. tomorrow." So they are confirming a meeting, including Melissa Nathan, for the next day. However, Brian Friedman will want you to think that she was tagged in this email without her consent or knowledge. She never knew about it. Melissa Nathan was allegedly a co-chairman, I believe, of the Hiltzik group, or she was like a co-founder. Here we have it, the Sydney Morning Herald. For nearly a decade, Melissa Nathan was the executive vice president of New York consulting and communications firm Hiltzik Strategies, which represented Depp during his legal dispute with Amber Heard in 2022. Launching her own PR firm, the agency group Tag, in June 2024. So she was with Hiltzik for quite a long time, and she was the vice president. The vice president. Now, isn't that interesting? The vice president of the firm is joining a meeting with Jeffrey Epstein, but oh, that was just an accident? So I guess here's where all the speculation on my end comes from. My opinion, what I think personally, is that I find it hard to believe that someone like Jeffrey Epstein or his assistants would just be like, would just allow the people who they're conducting business with to just be like, "Oh yeah, we're bringing in this person," and then they go to the meeting and that person doesn't show up, and it's a little bit like, huh? Like, who makes that mistake? Who just mentions like, "Yeah, we're gonna go to a meeting tomorrow with New York financier Jeffrey Epstein." It's 2017, by the way, which, by the way, where is it? Where is it? By the way, 2009 to 2018. This is post being released from jail. Epstein spent almost a decade facing allegations from multiple women saying they're his victims. He was only arrested in 2019. In 2008, he entered federal plea deal. Epstein pleads guilty to state charges of soliciting prostitution from someone under 18. He is sentenced to 18 months in jail. At this time, a controversial plea deal is made, meaning Epstein avoids federal charges that could have seen him face life in prison. Life in prison. His sentence allows him to continue to work, and he is released on probation after 13 months. Yeah, okay, that happened. And from then on, many allegations coming out about him. So, do you see here why I find it just so hard to believe that the VP, the vice president, I'm assuming Matthew Hiltzik is the president? I just don't understand how she could be copied into an email chain without knowing, without any reason, why they would explicitly say that she is joining the meeting. Why would they say, hey, our vice president's joining this meeting? And then, what? So, like, then she was like, she couldn't even say, like, hey, don't put me in that meeting because I don't want to see Jeffrey Epstein, because then she'd be lying about knowing that she was in the files. Right? Like, it's just like, there's a reason why things don't feel like they're lining up to me. But of course, I'm a conspiratorial person who just thinks of crazy things, I guess. So, I guess that's what it's all about, huh? So we have in text messages, they talk at length about the app Signal, because Signal has allegedly been used during the Blake Lively Baldoni stuff. Apparently it's pretty like standard practice, you know, you're doing PR for people, you got sensitive information coming out, you don't want copies of perhaps things that you just would rather have deleted. I'm not saying that like, oh, anyone who uses Signal is on the level of like Jeffrey Epstein and stuff like that, but you do have to call into question a little bit like, what are the purposes of using this app? Like, if you're just doing like standard public relations, like, here's how you should do interviews, this is what you should and shouldn't say, like, just be, you know, blah blah blah, the truth is on your side, nothing to worry about. It is kind of, like, I hate to do the, like, what do you have to hide kind of thing, but I kind of feel that way about it, especially when someone is mentioned in the Epstein Files. And I'm sorry, your lawyer can tell everyone that it was done without your knowledge or consent, but at this point in time, I'm not really inclined to believe it or trust it. There is no trust here. I think a lot of people are starting to feel that with everything that's come out with the Epstein stuff. Everyone is so like, I was saying it the other day, it's like, how do you even get back to like, how do you even go back to work after all this? How do you even, like, it's so hard to imagine all this stuff that has been happening in the world, and you read through the files and you read through the pain and the suffering that so many children have gone through. Children. And people are really fucking scrambling right now to come out and be like, oh, I didn't really know about the stuff, I just, it's too late. It's too late. I actually don't care about what a lot of people have to say about like, oh, I didn't know, because I just don't personally believe it. I'm not inclined to believe it. I don't think you deserve my sympathy. You don't deserve me to forgive you or to try and see your point of view, because it's fucked. It's totally and totally fucked. And I believe it even less because it's coming from a lawyer. Like, I know it's coming from a lawyer because it's like it's a safe statement to make. He's gonna, you know, say the right thing. He's gonna write it in a good way. And don't even believe for a second that most people who are coming out and being like, this is my statement, they've of course checked all this shit with their PR people, their lawyers and everything else. It's completely manufactured. Any apology is totally and completely just, it's unnatural. And for the record, me personally, I don't even know if I would believe Melissa Nathan if she was even to tell me what color my socks are. I don't believe this person for 1 second. And we even have invoices from Hiltzik, from billed to Jeffrey Epstein. We have 2 different invoices. I wasn't able to go through everything because there was thousands of results, but these are a couple things I noticed. $25,000 for 2 different periods. $2017. And you just have to think. You just have to think about it, really. It's not even that hard to think about. Epstein had a meeting with these people, paid them quite a lot of money, and when it comes to Melissa Nathan's name in the files, she's only really mentioned in that email chain. So that's for context. But when you think about the use of the Signal app, it's not hard to imagine, in my point of view, that they go to Epstein's place, they have this meeting, they make a mutual decision to get on an app, the Signal app, where they can communicate pretty freely without worry for anything being leaked. You know, I hate to think about how much stuff we could have uncovered if that just wasn't really a thing. But because we don't have that stuff, we can't definitively say what her involvement was, if there was any. Me personally, what I believe, I don't believe Brian Friedman, let's just put it that way. I don't believe Melissa Nathan. And another reason why I don't believe Melissa Nathan is because she allegedly lied under oath. So in this annotation, actually let's check which document is this. Memorandum of Law in opposition to defendant's motion for summary judgment. So in this little thing, we have Melissa Nathan lied. At this point, Friedman also was personally involved in attempting to kill stories that were unfavorable to his clients, including by threatening one reporter that he would never ever let up going after you for the rest of my career. Friedman also threatened at least one witness. In a text message on February 6, 2025, Nathan expressed confidence that Jenny Slate would not join Lively as a plaintiff because Friedman had gone ballistic on her lawyer and manager today, and said that her career would be over if she backs this horse sort of thing. Confronted at deposition, Melissa Nathan first lied and claimed it never happened. But after being confronted by the text, she explained that she had thought it was privileged information and thus perhaps acceptable to lie about under oath. She thought it was attorney-client privileged information. So apparently there is evidence, I haven't seen it myself, but there's evidence in the filings, probably under redacted stuff, that Brian Friedman has behind the scenes been allegedly threatening a lot of people, saying a lot of shit, and Melissa Nathan was allegedly knowledgeable about that, and then lied about knowing that. In deposition, under oath. I would say that's pretty significant. Maybe that's her misunderstanding of the law and attorney-client privileged information. Okay. So, forgive me if I don't believe Melissa Nathan, especially in light of all the other stuff. And there's even been talk about Brianna, who is also part of TAG, also working with Epstein. There's been rumors about Katie Koslow as well. And I think that's everything with that. But basically, many people in TAG allegedly working with Epstein, allegedly. I didn't research too far into the other people, but Melissa Nathan, in my opinion, something sussy about that. That is what I believe. Then we have text messages of Jennifer Abel being like, can we have digital team boost this interview? And then Brianna's like, yeah, for sure. They talk a lot about boosting things and, you know, going like, oh, this is really good. Let's make this booster. We'll tell the team to boost this. Whatever that means. I'm not really sure what that means, but that kind of plays into the smear campaign allegations, just to be clear. So let's talk about that. And Baldoni kind of in this one is talking about, what is it? He was talking about Colin Hoover or something. Alright, we are kind of going over time here, unfortunately, but I kind of wanted to talk about that. This video is great and we have pushed it out digitally. In terms of you posting it yourself, I would avoid resharing anything that's essentially a response to negative feedback. What I will say about like the text messages and stuff is that it is, a lot of people will say like, oh, this is so boring, like who gives a fuck, right? People will be like, this is just like two asshole Hollywood, you know, self-indulging narcissistic idiots, and it's like, yeah, I mean, I'd be inclined to agree with you. I think at this point in time, I am kind of feeling like both of these people are just like too obsessed with their image. But in saying that, I do think it's important if sexual harassment happened, if a smear campaign happened, I think it's important to address that. And as a viewer, I think it's good for us to be able to see into all this stuff because it genuinely is very interesting to see. Henny Grace is the owner, by the way. That's Justin Baldoni, I think. Yeah, it's Justin Baldoni. I don't know why he's called Henny Grace. I'm not really sure about that. It's interesting to read these text messages and see how celebrities, you know, big facing people, how they talk to their PR people and how they structure their social media, how they, what's it called? Strategize, how they strategize this stuff. Everything is insanely calculated, and it's like, we probably already knew that, I definitely already knew that, but seeing it for real, it's just like the Epstein Files. Actually, like, hearing about, like, Pizzagate and all that stuff is one thing, but then going through the files and seeing a lot of this stuff, it's a whole other thing to feel like, kind of like that's what's happening, right? People were kind of right. And so to get some kind of confirmation here about that, I would say is very interesting. And I think if you are curious, you should definitely go look through the court records yourself because it is very interesting. What I will say though is like so far I haven't seen anything like, were they not able to subpoena Lively and her team or something like that? Like that's what I don't really understand. I know Lively's lawsuit is about her having a smear campaign against her. But we see everything from Baldoni's side. I guess it's because they're defendants or something, so it's not like they can be like, oh well, you actually were doing the thing, so actually I'm not gonna... Maybe that's just something I didn't understand or it was something I missed in the lawsuit. I don't know if they tried to subpoena Lively's PR team, because they mention a lot of times that like, oh, it wasn't us who was planting stories, it was actually Lively and her team. So there's a bit of that. I'm gonna finish up in a second here. Yeah, so we have this thing where Melissa Nathan is saying, do you mind if I go offline with just you and Jamie? I feel like we should tell him first. I'm not sure if we should tell Justin today due to his wife's celebrations. You can of course do that, but I do think he needs to know. I'm going to confidentially send you something he's texting me and Jamie on the side, just to arm you before this call. I think you guys need to be tough and show the strength of what you guys can do in these scenarios. He wants to feel like she can be buried, like Lively. Of course, but you know when we send over documents, we can't send over the work we will or could do, because that could get us in a lot of trouble. So when they send over that document, and in the filings you'll see the document they outlined saying like all the things that they're going to be able to do, they're not going to mention like, oh yeah, we're using bots or something. And in my personal opinion, I don't believe they were necessarily using bots. but they say that they were using something much smarter. Like, most PR companies are smart enough to do something way more effective and less obvious. That's interesting. I don't know, I've got to tell you, I feel like Blake Lively has a case with the smear campaign. I think she does. I don't think it was just that people started going like, oh, okay, let's type up Blake Lively interview 2015, or Kirsty Flower was just, I mean, Kirsty Flower, I don't know about her. I don't know, like, I can't speculate as to whether she was paid off or not. I think, again, there are some things that Blake Lively definitely did to herself that, you know, her past behavior was not great. It was not great. It was not good. She's definitely made quite a few mistakes. It's just interesting that when a woman comes out talking about her sexual harassment, allegedly, another woman comes out, people are very much like, okay, well, let's dig up your history and see what you've done. Anyway, so we have not gone through my entire document here today, which is unfortunate, but that just means we can get onto it next week. That's not even finishing the Melissa Nathan chapter. How much more do we have? Yeah. Oh, and another thing about Melissa, with the tag PR, they also represented the Alexander brothers, allegedly. Now, I don't know much about the Alexander brothers, but I think they have some ties to Epstein or something. I don't really know for sure. But they apparently had an entire website that was being made. Okay, let me just read on this. So, according to this article in the New York Times by Deborah Kamin, she talks about how Mr. Engel Mayer is the brothers' most recent public relations hire, the Alexander brothers, but the campaign reaches back much further. The first accusations against them came to light 6 months before the men were arrested in December 2024, in a pair of civil lawsuits uncovered by The Real Deal, a real estate trade publication. Just before that story broke, The Real Deal reached out to Oren Alexander for comment. He immediately shifted into crisis mode. According to two people who worked with him at Official, the luxury brokerage that he and Tal Alexander co-founded in 2022, Oren Alexander then contacted Tag PR, Melissa Nathan's company, a public relations firm started by the crisis communications expert Melissa Nathan, perhaps best known for saying, while she worked with Mr. Baldoni, that she could bury anyone. Text messages and screenshots reviewed by The Times show that Tag held calls and sent emails to Oren and Tal Alexander and at least two other executives at Official. The focus of the communications was an effort to discredit Miss Whiteman, with a story that suggested her lawyer had fired her after reviewing the case. In fact, she had switched representation because her first lawyer had wanted her to accept a confidential settlement, and she wished for the case to proceed. At some point during the summer of 2024, the brothers stopped working with Tag within weeks as dozens of other women came forward with stories. A mysterious website suddenly appeared. The site, alexanderbrothersextorted.com, sound familiar? Purported to expose a conspiracy meant to take down the brothers. It featured photographs of women who had accused the men of rape, as well as mugshots of people described as crime bosses and leaders in an extortion ring. So then we get some screenshots of the supposed website, talking about stuff. While the website grew, the brothers focused on digging up dirt on Evan Torgan, a personal injury lawyer who had brought the first two lawsuits against them. So, I don't know. Some would deem that to be interesting, I guess. So when it comes down to it, me personally, I don't trust Melissa Nathan. I don't trust Brian Friedman. And you know, the thing about Brian Friedman is that, like, you know, when it comes to being a lawyer, you can take on cases, and sometimes you're taking on cases, I guess, that is like, doesn't really align with what you value. Sometimes you just have to do the job. That's kind of how it is. With PR, Is it the same thing? I don't really know. I think that at least with Brian Friedman, you know, he was representing FKA Twigs in her lawsuit against Shia LaBeouf. And, you know, reading that, it's like, he has like a mixture of, you know, things that I'd say like, oh yeah, he's doing some good work, and then other things where it's like, but I guess it's kind of like the life of a lawyer. Sometimes you represent people who are like, quote unquote, good and bad. Anyway, guys, that is not going to be everything here today about Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni. We might be pumping off with more Melissa Nathan stuff next week, but also next week I want to talk about the depiction of the domestic abuser in It Ends With Us, and how Justin Baldoni wanted to depict that versus Colin Hoover. There's a lot of interesting stuff around that. We're going to be talking about the marketing plan, HR, the agreement, maybe even the basement stuff, because there was something kind of interesting there. The female gaze, probably. There's a lot of text messages to go through, so if you like what you see, if you enjoyed the video, give me a like, subscribe, and I will see you next week for more Lively Baldoni stuff. If nothing like crazy happens, this is what we'll be doing. So if you're looking forward to that, then stay tuned.